We are live on a Friday here on A to Z Sports, and we've got a great show in store for you. Sam Phelan filling in for Austin Stanley again today. It has been a great week for Sam. You know, this is 5 days in a row. You're streaking. You're kind of like the Titans. You got a 5-day streak. They got a 3-game streak, and you're heading into a bye. You're heading into a weekend without any coverage of the game. So Sam is here to join us, and we've got a great topic for today. Talking about Titans culture and then talking about NFL winning culture. The Titans have won in very weird ways over the last 3 weeks without scoring a single point in the fourth quarter, but a W is a W. And they are 3-2. They are atop the AFC South. We're going to discuss why that has occurred, how that has occurred, and if that is a good thing and if it can continue. So victory culture on this Friday. And then we're going to get into something that I've been waiting to kind of talk about because of the Bucks victory over the weekend. And then you had Chris Jones on Monday night roughing the passer calls. As you can see, Jerome Bogard down there in the graphic discussing with Tom, hey, what should I do here? And they came to the conclusion that roughing the passer call will probably be the best scenario. And then the NFL has come back and said, look, we're going to continue this. So we're going to dive deeper into what roughing the passer represents in the NFL. And then ain't that good news to close out our Friday? I got really good news. I got really good shade that I'm holding on to that occurred this week. That'll be for next Wednesday. And I also have got a little surprise that I just remembered about. So, Sam, I'm going to dish it over to you to tell the fine folks what to do, and I will be right back.
Oh boy, I think I know what it is, but I'll leave the chat to be surprised. But before we get going on this wonderful Friday, make sure you go ahead and share the show. That's the best way to support us. Get more people involved in the conversation. Share to all your Titans fan friends. So if you're watching on Facebook, just click the share button. If it's YouTube, copy that link, send it to people. You can retweet us at A to Z Sports on Twitter and get the show out there. However you consume our show every day, make sure you help other people enjoy it as well and expand the community that joins us on here each and every morning. So share it before we get going. That's step number 1, Zach.
That's right. And what I had to go get. So yesterday, I'll get to my good news later, but I did have to go to Walgreens to get some stuff to clean out my car. And at Walgreens, I passed some heat lockers. And not Jake lockers, but heat lockers. And what these are, and I was like, maybe I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and buy these gloves for today. Now, here's the hard part. As Sam, you know, we've got to multitask. So the Magic Bucket told me that I had to wear gloves. I may be only to be able to wear 1 because I can't do what I need to do, but I will jazz hands you real quick.
Okay, there you go.
And I may alternate, but I got one right here to make the show move along. So let's officially start the show. Welcome into A to Z Sports. I am Zach Bingham. He is Sam Phelan. This is A to Z Sports. We got to thank our title sponsor, BetMGM. They're the king of the sports book. Download the app today and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 for new users using the promo code ATOZ Sports. And also, we got to thank our presenting sponsors, including Hughes & Coleman, your injury lawyer, the official injury lawyer of the Tennessee Titans, Bone and Joint Institute right there in Franklin, and satellite locations throughout Middle Tennessee. Don't fumble on your recovery. Go to the Bone and Joint Institute. Also, Farm Bureau Health Plans, fbhp.com/A to Z. Start your health plan today. I did at the beginning of this year. Now it's your turn. And Wilson County Hyundai, go to wilsoncountyhyundai.com. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, you could trade in your used vehicle. That is Wilson County Hyundai. All right, Sam, I got my jazz hands from the Magic Bucket rocking and rolling right here. Let's talk about the culture of the Titans. And, you know, I think it starts, and obviously it starts with Mike Vrabel, but you being in or around the team this year, as an A to Z Sports Titan reporter, this is your first year doing that. What have you seen from the coaching staff, from the players, from just the vibe in training camp, and then now we're seeing it play out on the field on Sundays?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when you talk about the Titans culture, I notice, I would say, an overwhelming confidence in the building, among the players, among the coaches, of exactly what everybody has been saying of, we'll figure it out, right? There is an overwhelming confidence of this will prevail when it all comes down to the wire. When it's all said and done, the players, the coaches, they believe that their preparation, that their culture, that their energy will find a way to win games. And you have seen that on display so far to start this year. We talked about the 0-2 start. We talked about, as ugly as the team has looked at times, the amount of holes that they've had on both sides of the football when looking at their roster. And yet, over the last 3 weeks, they have overcome injuries, overcome poor play, overcome ugly football at times, and found a way to win 3 games in a row and get themselves back into first place. And I do think it is that reassurance and that reaffirmation of those foundations of the culture of, hey, Titans football is tough, and Titans football is going to make the big play when it matters, and Titans football is going to find a way to win. So despite all of the negative comments about them, the negative energy towards them, the negative coverage in national media at a lot of times, I get the sense every day in the building that each guy in that locker room believes that they're going to wind up as at the top of the AFC South, and they're going to wind up contending for a Super Bowl, regardless of what the roster or what everybody else might be saying about them.
Well, and the fact of the matter is that under Mike Vrabel, they've been very, very good at making the playoffs. There was just one year when Mariota was on the sidelines in a ball cap on Sunday Night Football, and it was one win to get in. Now they've added a playoff team. They've added a game, and the Titans are still making the playoffs. And right now, as it sits on October 14th, the season's still, far from over, but they're in first place of the AFC South, the division that they've won the last 2 years. This culture has definitely won them football games. I think there's no denying that. And then Bizarro PK comes in and says more like injury culture. Well, you're not wrong. In the last couple of years, injuries occur all across the league. Now, obviously, when they happen to your team, they're much different, but they happen to the Buccaneers. They happen to the Rams in the Super Bowl. They happened to the Bengals last year, even with their run. And then you had the outlier of COVID too the last couple of years, right? Where, the NFL was going back and forth because they didn't know what the hell they wanted to do in the protection of, what they thought society versus what was the reality and what we know now. And so you had guys sitting out games there, and you had to strategically maneuver this roster. But here's one thing that I will say, and this kind of precedes your covering the team, Sam. The culture, and this is how I see the Titans culture. Like, you could say injury culture, you could say no fun culture, but like I covered this football team when they were the worst in the league, and essentially into back-to-back years. Mariota went number 2 overall. Jameis Winston went 1, and that was a tie for the worst team in the league. That was a coin flip, essentially, or it went to tie break. But of why, the Titans didn't pick 1, but they were disastrous in the early 2000 teens. It was 2013, 2014, right around there. They were really, really bad. And their culture was because their ownership was in a state of disarray. Bud Adams, the history of this franchise, and a lot of this chat understands this and knows it. The history of this franchise, Bud Adams was the face of this franchise for a very, very long time. And they had the likes of, Earl Campbell, Warren Moon, Steve McNair, Eddie George. And then you had, the Chris Johnsons of the world, the Vince Youngs of the world, the Marcus Mariotas of the world. And now that culture changed once Amy Adams Strunk came in and reorganized the culture. It wasn't Tommy Smith, who was waddling around the facility for some time, and this team was really, really bad, and they didn't have a leader. Amy Adams Strunk hired her leader in John Robinson, who hired his leader in Mike Vrabel. And since then, This is how I would describe the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans are a very stable franchise. Now, stability does not always win you Super Bowls, but stability keeps you in the mix year after year. And the Titans have been in the mix. And I think that is one of the main reasons why the last 3 games, Sam, they should not have won those games. I will, maybe the Raiders, they should have because of the Raiders' miscues towards the end. They built the lead. But the Commanders, any other good team makes that play on the goal line and destroys that opportunity to steal that win with David Long Jr.'s interception. But I do think, and I want to ask you, do you think that the culture has won the last 3 games to get them to 3-2 and atop the AFC South?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. I think they do as well. I mean, the Titans are injured. They are less talented than a lot of the other teams that you see at the top of their divisions, but they have this mentality of, it's that next man up mentality. It's the find a way mentality, the victory mentality. And so far, Mike Vrabel has done an excellent job ever since he got here of just getting the most out of his talent. And it really has been impressive to me how they've found playmakers to make plays to win them games in some of the more unlikely areas where they won a game the week prior because of Dylan Cole dropping back into pass coverage and making a play on the football after they didn't give Dylan Cole reps at middle linebacker or inside linebacker for the entire training camp. Basically, he wasn't a part of that plan, and injury necessitated him to be part of that plan. And there's really no question to me, this is not the most talented football team in the AFC. They're not a football team that should make the playoffs based off talent alone, but their coaching and their culture has carried them into getting buy-in from everybody on the roster and buy-in from everybody on the practice squad and preparation that allows them to be successful in the games. I think that's pretty clear. So that's kind of where the question lies today, Zach, because there was a lot of conversation about, hey, this is an ugly streak, but it's a streak in the locker room after the Titans defeated the Commanders. And Titans all-pro safety Kevin Byard had some interesting comments about the culture. So we are going to ask the question, and we'll show you the video in a minute before we ask the question. But we're going to ask the question, what is more important to NFL success, talent, or culture? But first, let's show you what Kevin Byard had to say after the Titans' big win about the Titans' culture.
I think back to that Buffalo game where we got blown out and kind of embarrassed on national TV. And I'm not saying you guys nothing like that, but a lot of people kind of counted us out saying that, what's going on with the Titans, boom, boom, boom. And I spoke to you guys in the locker room and I said, man, our culture is based upon what happens when adversity hits. We hit adversity, obviously, early in the year going on too. But 3 straight wins, man, regardless of how they come, it's always great to win this league because it's going to be hard. We're always going to be in dogfights, one-possession games. So proud of our defense. Big money David Long making plays. But like you said, man, there's obviously some things we got to correct. But at the end of the day, man, winning this league is very hard. So, and one thing that I'm super proud about this group is that we have no quit. Guys are going to fight to the end. And that's something that we can always build upon, obviously, with other things we got to correct.
So there you have it. So before we get into the question, Zach, give you a minute to process that video. You got a word from a sponsor?
Yeah, that's the Bone and Joint Institute right here on A to Z Sports. Don't fumble in your recovery. Use the Bone and Joint Institute right here in Middle Tennessee. They've got their main state-of-the-art facility in Franklin, Tennessee. And then the best part is they've got satellite locations across the mid-state. That's the Bone and Joint Institute. They do so many great things across the Middle Tennessee region, and they do great things with A to Z Sports, including Doc Talks. They are professionals. They can help you in your time of need with your injury. That's the Bone and Joint Institute.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM. BetMGM is the king of sports books, and if you place a bet using the promo code ATOZ Sports on the BetMGM app, you can get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 on pro football. So with this next week of pro football coming up, it's a big Sunday, big weekend again. Get involved. Use the promo code ATOZ Sports on the King of Sportsbooks BetMGM for a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Zach, culture, talent, two very different things that can both contribute to being a winner in the NFL. You hear the comments from Kevin Byard. We can play it again here momentarily, but what is your thought on this deal?
Well, let's separate them real quick, Sam, because that's the difference of what Kevin Byard was saying is not what we're asking. Kevin Byard is talking about the Titans. We are going to ask about the NFL. For the Titans, their culture wins football games, and I think this is kind of the unique part about what the Titans do. They are a running football team that plays good defense, that will grind you out and keep games close. If you keep games close, the probability of you winning, I think, is higher than if you're trying to go into a track meet with the Kansas City Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Green Bay Packers at times, or the Philadelphia Eagles for this year. So I think for the Titans, this culture has worked. Now, here's what I think the problem is. I think this culture has a ceiling. And the ceiling is, I think a lot of teams get to a point where they construct their roster, they build their culture, they have their head coach, they have their players, and then they go out and they win, but they don't win enough. That's their ceiling. And the Titans, unfortunately, in my opinion, they have a ceiling. Now, listen to what Kevin Byard says, and then we'll react to it. But Kevin Byard is talking about how this is literally immediately after David Long Jr. has just salvaged their botch job in the fourth quarter of scoring 0 points, letting Carson Wentz and some interference calls flow the Commanders all the way down the field to the goal line. And then all of a sudden they're they're on their heels. They've got to make a stop. David Long Jr. picks off a pass and wins them the football game. This was Byard's, and this is good because this is his true organic reaction on why they won the game.
I mean, I think back to that Buffalo game where we got blown out and kind of embarrassed on national TV. And I'm not saying you guys nothing like that, but a lot of people kind of counted us out saying that, what's going on with the Titans, boom, boom, boom. And I spoke to you guys in the locker room and I said, man, our culture is based upon what happens when adversity hits. We hit adversity, obviously, early in the year going 0-2. But 3 straight wins, man, regardless of how they come, it's always great to win this league because it's going to be hard. We're always going to be in dogfights, one-possession games. So proud of our defense. Big money David Long making plays. But like you said, man, there's obviously some things we got to correct. But at the end of the day, man, winning this league is very hard. And one thing that I'm super proud about this group is that we have no quit. Guys are going to fight to the end, and that's something that we can always build upon. Obviously, with other things we got to correct.
So, Sam, when you listen to that, I heard Mike Vrabel's voice.
Oh, yeah.
I literally think that if you wrote that on a script and then you heard Mike Vrabel's post-game speech after that, I think he hits all of those points that Kevin Byard just said. They counted us out in Buffalo. We're a gritty team. It's about our culture. When adversity hits, we get better. It's hard to win in this league. All of those things, I just think are verbatim of what Mike Vrabel says.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's kind of been the theme of the year, right? Basically, every message coming out of the locker room from the Titans players is a Mike Vrabel philosophy. It's a Mike Vrabel message that he kind of makes sure gets home to everybody there. And then that's what kind of leaks out to the media. That's what he emphasizes is we are going to find a way. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And he thinks that they are a tough bunch. So we're looking at the overall NFL. Zach, you clarified that. This is not the Titans specific where it's talent or culture. This is NFL success. What is more important, talent or culture? Let's go ahead and look at the chat here. Steven is on culture. Synergy is the collective sum is greater than its parts. Let's see what else. Tighten Up says talent. Matthew says talent. Darren says talent. Jonathan is culture. Sean is culture. let's see. Andre says plenty of teams have lots of talent and don't do anything. Culture. Billy says culture. Jarrett says culture. Wow. John says culture. A lot of long answers today. Orlando says culture. Eric says talent comes and goes. Culture is what will get you over the finish line year in and year out. Noah says culture over talent. George says culture. Jags pay for talent every year and rarely have a winning record. Caleb says talent. Culture fades fast if you start losing. Talent over culture. It's a good point by Caleb there. Grim Jim says Titans win games, but not championships. So some people on both sides of the aisle here. Zach, I throw it to you. What is more important? Is it talent or is it culture in an NFL locker room?
Look at sports as a whole, not just the NFL. We'll talk about the NFL here in a second. The NBA is run on talent, right?
Yeah.
The NHL is run on talent. Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin, all those guys, Nathan McKinnon, they get and they win Stanley Cups because they are talented. Major League Baseball is the same way. The NFL, go look at the history, and Grim Jim just said my answer. It is talent because culture can get you to a level, but the Titans have a ceiling because they don't have the talent. They don't. Look at the Super Bowl champions. Now, not saying that it cannot be done based on culture. I think a great example of culture, maybe over talent, the Philadelphia Eagles beating the New England Patriots a handful of years ago with Nick Foles. That was Doug Peterson's culture to get that team, and Carson Wentz was actually the quarterback for the majority of the year before he tore his ACL in Los Angeles. And then culture took over. That got them over the hump. But overall, it is a talent league. Matthew Stafford, because he is more talented than Jared Goff, wins them a Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes wins a Super Bowl because of talent. Tom Brady, that's the best example. The year the Bucs won the Super Bowl, that's all talent, baby. You know, the year before, that was Jameis Winston throwing 30 for 30 touchdowns and 30 picks. Bad talent missed the playoffs. I watched every single pick he threw, including the last one against the Atlanta Falcons in the season finale. So if you look at what wins championships, it is talent. And I do believe, and this is what I will kind of double down on, Kevin Byard is not wrong. Winning against the Commanders in week 5 in a gutty, grit-filled game, yeah, that culture can come to fruition. But where was the culture when they were playing the Cincinnati Bengals in the playoffs last year, Sam? Where was it? Because all I saw was their quarterback throw not one, not two, but 3 interceptions, and that last one to lose the game, they didn't have the talent. Wasn't talent enough. You know who was talented enough? Joe Burrow, the number 1 overall pick from a few years ago, to lead his team to a Super Bowl appearance, and then better talent beat Joe Burrow's talent. The Titans don't have either of those talents. Their biggest talent is Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry is not on the field for a lot of third downs. That's their problem. And that's what I will be shouting from the rooftops until that changes. I like the culture, but until the Titans will win a Super Bowl if they change their talent.
Yeah. Well, okay. There's a lot to go off because I disagree with you. I do. I believe very firmly in culture, and I've got a couple different points that I want to make to get there. Number one, I cannot compare the NFL to the NBA or the NHL. The NFL and probably Major League Baseball are way more team-oriented sports where individual accomplishments don't mean nearly as much, and you have to rely on your teammates. It is the same reason if you look at Major League Baseball and you have Shohei Ohtani, the best player in the world, and Mike Trout, the second best player on the world, playing on the same team, and they can't even go 500 every year because baseball is team. Football is more like baseball. 1 good player, 2 good players doesn't mean anything if your roster's not deep and you don't have a winning culture, and team history would suggest that. The Raiders have more talent than anybody else maybe in the league this year, at least on the offensive side of the ball, with the amount of weapons that they have. And Derek Carr is a very talented quarterback. They've invested. The Colts invested in a lot of talent. The Chargers, the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Falcons, year after year, we see, oh, well, they have all these first-round picks on offense. They go and get the talent, but there's no consistency. There's no buy-in. There's no culture. There's no established winning chemistry in the building to pull these teams together. And when you look at the teams that are doing it, when you look at the teams that do win Super Bowls, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New England Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, these are teams that are there year after year after year. And why? All four of those teams have had a head coach there for over a decade. All four of those teams have had a head coach establish a winning culture before the talent arrived or as the talent arrived. Patrick Mahomes walked into Kansas City when Kansas City was the number one seed in the AFC with Alex Smith. He walked into a scenario that had a winning culture, locker room buy-in. Then they added the talented guy.
You're proving the point, though. You just proved the point.
Well, that's the perfect.
The culture got them Alex Smith. But they couldn't get it done with Alex Smith.
They were the one seed with Alex Smith. Alex Smith would have won a Super Bowl if he didn't hurt his leg.
Whoa.
Well, I mean, Colin Kaepernick played in a Super Bowl for the Niners.
Incorrect. That is incorrect. Alex Smith would not have won a Super Bowl.
A good winning quarterback a couple times.
They would not have won a Super Bowl. But you're saying, look, I think they need both. But the point that I'm making is you can build a good culture like the Titans have, but the Titans will not win a Super Bowl until they go find the talent. It's the same thing of what the Bucks and the Chiefs are great examples. Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, he had such a bad culture, they pushed his ass out, right? And he won a Super Bowl. But he won a Super Bowl with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Shaq Barrett, Levante David, those type of players because of the talent. Ndamukong Suh, I mean, the list goes on. The talent wins you Super Bowls.
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl.
What year was that?
It doesn't matter.
No, it does. Look, the era of football has changed. I'm asking Sam, what year did Trent Dilfer
2001.
win a Super Bowl? How old were you then?
One.
I was a young lad myself, right? So you can look back. Trent Dilfer coaches at Lipscomb Academy. He's not even close to the league. But Trent Dilfer is knowledgeable. But that was such a long time ago. You cannot give that an example in 2022. The iPhone, what iPhone was even there? I don't think there was an iPhone.
I don't know if there was an iPhone.
So you can't reference something that if there was not an iPhone to Trent Dilfer.
Well, okay.
Brad Johnson. Oh, yeah, that was 2002. So still wasn't an iPhone.
How about this? Nick Foles won a Super Bowl.
That was that's one. Look.
Well, you're arguing the same thing as you're arguing the exception to the rule as well with Patrick Mahomes and taking a very good team to the Super Bowl. The
Rams couldn't win a Super Bowl.
Both is obviously the answer. But Zach, when I look at success in the NFL and I define success, it's sustained success. It's not one Super Bowl. It's not a couple years. I saw somebody bring up Mac Jones and the Patriots. Mac Jones and the Patriots made the playoffs last year, and they're not bad again this year with Bailey Zappi, and that has to do with coaching and culture. So I reject.
But the Patriots are going to get bumped in the first round if they make the playoffs. Guarantee it. I'll bet you $1,000, right? Zach,
if
they make the playoffs, because they don't have the talent, they cannot survive in the tournament.
Zach, here's my point. You are arguing for talent by pointing to teams that have culture. And when I look at teams that have talent and have no culture, they don't work. And teams that don't have talent but do have culture still find a way to sustain success in these organizations. Because you can point to the Chiefs all you want and say Patrick Mahomes. You can point to all these teams and say, well, look at all the talent they have. But Matt Stafford walked into a winning culture in LA. Patrick Mahomes walked into a winning culture in Kansas City. And yes, an elite quarterback takes you to the next level of Super Bowl caliber and Super Bowl winners and multiple championships. But the Raiders, the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Falcons, so many teams throughout the year say, well, what if we just go get all these weapons? Surely that'll work. And it doesn't, because unless you have a culture and a coach and buy-in from everybody on the active roster, football is not, it's greater than its parts. The sum is greater than its parts, as Steven said at the start. So you can point to these teams that have both all you want. The rules of the NFL tell me that to win consistently and have consistent, sustainable success, it starts with the culture. And if you can go and get high-end talent to match with that, that's when you have something really, really special. But to be successful and regularly successful, I also think there's a point to make. In order to get that talent, you have to create a culture. You have to be an attractive destination for other people, right? Like as soon as you have a great head coach, as soon as you have a great buy-in and everybody respects you as a winner, that's when people start saying, okay, I'll go over there. And it all starts with your culture.
I think it starts with your culture. It ends with your talent. And that's what we're talking about, though, because the definition, like the Titans are a successful franchise, correct?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but they're not anywhere close if you polled America to say, are the Titans a successful franchise? The reason why is because they don't have they have one Super Bowl appearance, which was a loss, and they haven't sniffed that, but once in an AFC championship game since then, well, twice if you actually count 2003 and then a couple of years ago. So my point is a culture will get you so far. I agree. It starts with the culture, but the Titans are a great example. Sam, do you believe that the Titans have a good culture?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do they have the talent to win a Super Bowl?
If they're healthy this year, I do think they do.
That's a surprising answer. Like that's your answer.
That's fair. I look at teams that have done it in recent years, and right now it's concerning. But the 49ers almost won a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo because they had a good defense, they could run the football, and they had good play calling.
Well,
right?
They also on offense, they had Brandon Ayuk. They also had Deebo Samuel, who's one of the top players in this league. Oh yeah, and they had a top 5 tight end named George Kittle. The Titans don't have that. The Titans have a Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback.
Yeah.
They've got a stud running back, and then there's a massive drop-off, right? So my point, and this is kind of where I'm going, is, in my opinion, you have your opinion, and that's what this show is about. The Titans do not have the talent to win a Super Bowl. They don't. They don't have it. The last 2 years, Super Bowl champions, if you want to say the Rams and the Bucks, they showed that in this era of football, you can go purchase the talent. If you have a adequate culture, and the Bucks didn't even have a culture, honestly. They were culturing around with Dirk Cutter a few years before that, right? So they went and bought the talent. The talent will win you Super Bowls. And that, I think, ultimately, in today's football, gets you over the hump. I agree with you. Culture gets you to the hump. But Titans fans are frustrated, just like Colts fans are frustrated, just like Bills fans are frustrated, is they can't get over the hump. Now, the Bills, I think, are in a unique situation because their talent is now starting to grow, right? They've gone out and gotten Von Miller this year to maybe put him over the edge. They've drafted well. Micah Hyde is unbelievable in the back end of their defense, and Josh Allen has improved. And then they've got a top 5 wide receiver in Diggs. The Titans will not get over the hump until they improve their talent. So that is why my answer is talent. We talk about the Titans. I think they're a great example for this question.
Yeah, I think it's different how you define success. When we ask the question, what's key to NFL success? Super Bowls, you for the most part, the rule would tell you at least need a very high-end quarterback in order to have success and win there. But I can even look back, Zach, at all of those Patriots teams that won championships, and I see Tom Brady and some talented players here and there with a Rob Gronkowski. but they've never had wide receivers. They've had some bad offensive lines. They've had some bad defenses in the past, though. But there is a Bill Belichick, Tom Brady sense too. And I want to make this point that Bobby and MB say when referring to Tampa Bay, I think Tom Brady is that culture. Like you sign Tom Brady, yeah, you get a talented quarterback. You also get Tom Brady as a leader for your culture. And when Tom Brady goes there, everybody else starts to follow where other people want to go play.
I think
there.
that is fair. I absolutely agree.
So I think that the Bucs aren't necessarily a fair example of like, oh, well, look at all this talent, because Tom Brady is a.
But why did he leave New England?
Transcends that because
why did he leave New England?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the building. I don't hear what's going on behind closed doors.
No. You know why he left New England.
Well,
he looked to his left, he looked to his right, and he was throwing to a bunch of jokers. They had no talent around him. So he went to Tampa because they had Mike Evans, they had
talent around him,
they
got
had
him
Chris
5
Godwin,
Super Bowls.
And he brought Gronk. So the reason why he left is because they were talentless.
And he still won 5 Super Bowls?
Huh?
And he still won 5 Super Bowls?
The greatest quarterback of all time got tired of trying to do
what does that say about New England
and
Bill Belichick's? What does it say about New England and Bill Belichick's culture if Tom said, well, there's no talent here, and yet he's got a handful of rings on his hand? Because that tells you all you need to know.
Well, look, you have to have both to be successful. I don't think we're disagreeing on that term. I just think that you have to have talent to get you to the pinnacle. And that, whether we like it or not, that is the goal of every single team every single year. It is very hard to do. There's going to be 31 disappointed teams each and every year. We know that, right? Because they're going to fall short. But I do believe to get to that pinnacle, and history shows you have to have the talent. The Titans, I mean, this is a good question. Are Titans fans okay with just making the playoffs and getting bounced every single year? I mean, are you okay with that?
I mean, it's tough because it's like, well, if you say they're going to get bounced every year, everybody's going to tell you no. But I do think there is an overestimation in the NFL of how good you have to be to contend for a Super Bowl, because we've seen teams, the New York Giants being one, who go 9-7 and go down and win a Super Bowl. Getting in each and every year sets yourself up for success. So if you're asking me, like, are you okay with making the playoffs every year, but maybe not being the number 1 seed? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they were the number 1 seed.
Right. I'm just saying it, like, you go into the year and you're like, okay, well, Kansas City is going to be awesome and they're a Super Bowl contender. If you could tell me the Titans go 11-6, 10-7 each and every year and make the playoffs, everybody should sign up for that, right? And I think assume, because you can't assume results in the playoffs. Football, any given Sunday. And it's one game, and the format of it sets you up that if you're in the dance every year, the same way that you just said, being in the dance every year gives you a better chance to win championships, straight up. So like I would take that sustained success and trust that would be fruitful on the back end when it comes to acquiring more talent and repeating that.
And I would say that getting to the dance is valued, except going to the dance every year and then being left out.
A lot better than picking second in the draft.
Yes, absolutely, right? You don't want to be the bottom teams like the Jags and the Lions, but it wears on fans. And I believe, because we talk to them every single day, we see them, the Titans fan base are at that precipice where this is the year, and I truly believe this. I think this is the year, if they do the same thing that they've done the last 2 years, get to the playoffs and lose or don't have the success. They lost to the Ravens, and they lost to the Bengals with a bye, right? Which is not going to happen again. The Titans are not going to get a bye again. If you lose in the first round or the first game you play in this year's playoffs, they are going to have to change their talent. Their culture is good. Their talent is not great. And that's what they're trying to do. So then you have to go find new talent. That's drafting Malik Willis. It's figuring out Treylon Burks. It's trading for DJ Moore if you really want to find it, and at least give Ryan Tannehill, if you believe in Ryan Tannehill, and this is what I think from John Robinson, if you believe in Ryan Tannehill, you should give him every ample opportunity to win a playoff game and make a Joe Burrow type run or even a Titans type run 3 years ago to an AFC championship game. If you don't make that move, the Titans will fall short once again, and Titans fans will be done with that. They will say, we need something else. We need a change. The Derrick Henry is unbelievable. He's a fan favorite. He's the face of the franchise. But this style with this talent doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, my argument for you would just be like, the great thing is that you can switch your talent, and Ryan Tannehill is going to be gone, and certain amount of these players are going to be gone. And the great part is the Titans will still probably have success because Mike Vrabel and Mike Vrabel's culture isn't going anywhere. But we probably need to move on here because we've been going a little bit long-winded at the say. We got some other stuff to talk about too. You know, we got a couple things.
Well, you talk about like the culture of let's say, you know, the Titans. There is a culture in the NFL, and this is, I think, an eye-opening thing from the start, and it's starting to be impactful. Now, it hasn't truly hurt or impacted the Titans as it has other teams, but we are going to get into the refs, and I'm really curious to see what our chat has to say about this. But first, I do want to tell you guys about Farm Bureau Health Plans, FBHP.com. The plan for you, which includes health, dental, and vision, is Farm Bureau Health Plans. 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. Visit FBHP.com/A to Z. I switched my coverage at the beginning of this year. I'm super happy that I did. I get teledoc conferences when I'm sick for prescriptions to actually get on my phone and FaceTime with a real doctor to help me get better. My plan also includes a allowance for contacts. I've been wearing contacts since 7th grade. My dental, you got a free teeth cleanings. I got to get these pearly whites cleaned up here before, the holiday season right around the corner. That is comped with my plan. Change your plan today by visiting fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Today's show is powered by BetMGM. BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks, is giving you a risk-free bet on pro football up to $1,000 with the promo code ATOZ Sports on the BetMGM app. So whatever game it is that you have your eye on this weekend that you want to tune into on NFL Sunday, make sure that you place that wager on BetMGM and use that promo code ATOZ Sports. Your bet can be risk-free, so there's no reason not to get involved with that type of offer.
So, Sam, to wrap up the last conversation, I'm actually going to dish out the love of the show on this Friday. We haven't been on a show where I've dished out the love of the show. Love of the show is where a comment that I love so much, they get the singular love of the show. And today's love, I think, embodies what the Tennessee Titans have done through Mike Vrabel's tenure, and what they're going to do in the future will be very telling. The love of the show goes to Jake Hughes. Jake states, the Titans built Rome 3 years ago. Since then, they've destroyed it. So Jake is absolutely right in this sense. They built with Ryan Tannehill by trading Marcus Mariota. They got Derrick Henry. They drafted A.J. Brown. They built a solid defense, right? And that was the, Adoree Jackson, Malcolm Butler, Logan Ryan with Kevin Byard. And they drafted Jeffrey Simmons. They had done some really good things. And in 3 years with this particular Roman Empire, it has, I think, gotten to a point where you need to take a step back and reconstruct. This will be the last year of the realization that this Rome is not the conquering Rome, that you're going to have to move forward with some other pieces. And injuries, unfortunately, I think are going to help move this along a lot quicker. Treylon Burks, as we talked about yesterday, we will truly not know who Treylon Burks is as an NFL wide receiver in December. I mean, December 1st, we still won't know. And the injuries to Harold Landry and Taylor Lewan, even Zach Cunningham, and some of the other injuries, the misses of Caleb Farley. I think that this will be a time next offseason where Jake will be correct. It's time to rebuild, destroy and rebuild. Speaking of destroyed, quarterbacks aren't getting destroyed, but they're getting the flags. How big of a problem is this, in your opinion, in the NFL? Roughing the passer, and you can categorize it in any different way, but how do you think this impacts the league? It obviously has in two individual games with Tom Brady and Chris Jones against Derek Carr. It didn't end up in a win for the Raiders, but it was a huge call. What's going on with this?
Yeah, I mean, it is the biggest deal in the league right now, maybe from just a competition and a rules standpoint. The NFL, I think it's bigger than roughing the passer too, Zach. The NFL has had some really tough standards for penalties that I think are inconsistent rules in terms of, a quarterback is sliding and they get, hit as they're sliding. And is that a flag? Is it not a flag? And we just saw the whole pass interference kind of saga unfold over the last couple years. And I think competition in the NFL is on the hot seat at this point, which is kind of a tough.
What does that mean?
Well, I think that there is a lot of competitive juices of football. I don't know if you saw the videos on Twitter of Tom Brady when he's on the Patriots. He's running over to the right side and he gets hit by basically a semi-truck. Just absolutely leveled head first. The guy left his feet. He pops right back up. It's no problem. He goes and gets back in the huddle and ready to go. No flags, no nothing. And then to compare that to where the game is today, and look, I know obviously a lot of that is to try and make the game safer. And the Tua Tagovailoa situation from a few weeks ago was a scary situation that probably expedited this process. But I think a lot of fans and a lot of players are frustrated with letting defenders specifically play defense. Like, this is football at the end of the day. Go let somebody make a hit. And right now, the standard and the rules for roughing the passer are wildly inconsistent, way too it's not clear enough. And I think it's way too soft. Like, these are not penalties. You should be able to hit a quarterback. That is part of the game. And yeah, it is a concern because right now it's affecting games too. And I know, like, the Raiders didn't win that game, but the Bucs did, and the Bucs did large in part because of that call, and it took the game out of Atlanta's hands and really didn't give them a chance to win that game. So I would, it is a concern, and you have to make sure that your standards and your rules aren't changing and then impacting games.
Yeah, and Michael Billingsley said, and I'm sure you watched it last night, two glaring bad calls, but last night's Justin Fields was getting killed and no flags. I think that goes to star treatment, right? Justin Fields is not a star in this league. Sorry, Bears fans. He's just not, right? Not yet. If he can be, and I think you play for the Chicago Bears. That's a illustrious franchise that is starving for a quarterback, right? Starving for that star. Here, I guess this is a culture thing. This is a societal culture thing. You talk about soft. I think society is soft. It is so soft. But, I read something this morning where, Gen Zers think that this is offensive when you text them, the thumbs up emoji, that it's passive aggressive and they don't want to be aggressive. I'm tired of that. But here is one thing that, and I don't agree with society much at all because I think the way that I think. Tua changed this for everybody because football has to protect football. And I'm kind of surprised that I'm taking this stance, but football has to protect its youths. It has to protect the mother that is sitting in the living room watching Thursday Night Football against the Dolphins and the Bengals with their kids, their 3 little boys, because Papa Daddy wants to sit in his chair and watch football, and she sees Tua, going to
oh God.
Yeah, I mean, and so Football has to protect football. Are the calls horrendous? Yes, they are. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But because Tua was such in the public eye on first the stumble against the Bills and then the locking up on Thursday night in prime time in front of millions and millions of fans, the NFL has always told us they are proactive. They do not just always sit back. Now, the Ray Rice situation, they suspended him 2 games. They got a ton of heat. Then they were proactive, and they essentially they didn't let him back in the league, right? So, like, they change rules all the time. I will say the NFL is proactive. They don't make all of the right decisions. I don't want to sit here and praise the NFL. Roger Goodell is not near perfect, but I do think when it comes to safety, keep your stars healthy and keep moms and dads at home, not thinking that it is a completely and utter dangerous sport to protect their children. You kind of have to, because there's too many different options. You can grow up and play lacrosse. You can grow up and play soccer. You can play baseball. You can play less contact sports, even though American football is the most popular sport in America. But football has to protect football. And I think I kind of agree with Michael. You're just going to have to sacrifice 2 glaring bad calls, and there will be a third, there will be a fourth, there will be a fifth, and you just pray that it doesn't happen to your favorite football team at its expense. But football has to protect football.
Yeah, I'm with you. No, I do think you have to make steps in that direction. As much as I love the competitive nature of football and how things might have, how things used to be, you've also had people and football players say, well, I'm not letting my kids play football because of this reason, and this reason. And so in that sense, yeah, football does have to do it. And my biggest thing, Zach, is I just need consistency. Like, those calls were really, really bad, and I'm aware that those are the outliers. I just need consistency in the rules. And it's like you said, and like other people mentioned, Justin Fields is getting creamed last night, knocked around and landed on and flung all over the place, and you've got no flags. And everybody just kind of chalks that up to, okay, well, Brady gets star treatment. I hate star treatment. Nobody should get star treatment.
You have to.
But you're calling
your
stuff
league
that is
is
changing
you don't
games.
Want,
and
hey,
if you're going
Sam,
to maintain competitive balance, like
Sam, we don't want to watch Commanders versus Bears anymore. And they have 0 stars. I don't want to watch it. Nobody wants to watch it. So you have to protect your stars because you don't want Commanders Bears.
Everybody. You have to protect everybody.
It's Jimmy Johnson's philosophy. You treat Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith differently than you treat the safety that you cut for being 15 minutes late to practice. You do. But that's life, man.
Not with rules. Like, there is treatment from a coach to a player on how you
protecting the game. It's a justification, though.
But that is why people are upset. Is not because this is getting called or this is getting called. While some of that might be the case, you need consistency in the rule book. You need everybody protected. If landing on a quarterback is pass interference, it better be called when it happens to Jacoby Brissett the same amount of times as when it happens to Tom Brady. Because in my eyes, it's an NFL quarterback. And if you're going to have integrity in your sport, integrity in your game, and maintain competitive balance, rules are rules. I agree with I agree with Valentino. Rules are rules. Like, define roughing the passer for me, and I have no problem with what you call.
Well,
my issue is that it's not defined and it's not consistent, because one day throwing Tom Brady to the ground to the side is illegal. The next day, lighting up Justin Fields and hitting him in the helmet after he slides after a play is fine. That's not okay to me. You have to establish a standard.
Is there a difference between a running quarterback and a pocket quarterback in this discussion?
No.
in ruling against said player. Because then you go into the Cam Newton situation, right? Because he always used to complain that he didn't get the calls because he was a running quarterback. Justin Fields is a running quarterback. Tom Brady is not. Different set of superstars and stardom. But do you think that goes into play?
No, I think the play matters, right? If Justin Fields is running as a runner, obviously the standards, you can't get called for roughing the passer on form tackling a quarterback running with the ball like as a runner. That is, he becomes a runner at that point. But but if Tom Brady is running forward and slides and a guy comes in and hits him late, even if it's with the shoulder to shoulder, I can guarantee you flags are flying from every which direction because number 12 was running and he slid and we have to protect Tom. And same thing happens with Aaron Rodgers. Same thing happens with stars. I just want to see a consistent level between every NFL quarterback. And then you can say what you want. You can say, well, that's the rule. And I'm fine with that. My biggest issue recently has been that's not getting called for everybody. And with NFL penalties, that's the risk you run because it's not objective. It's a very subjective matter because it's in one man's hands to throw the flag. But I think teams and players are frustrated because if you can hit him like that, you shouldn't be able to hit me like that. So yeah, or if you can't hit him like that, you shouldn't be able to hit me like that. And that's not how it is right now, right? Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and all these guys are getting special treatment. It shouldn't be that way.
So do you want more calls like Brady in the Falcons or less?
Well, no, I don't want those type of calls at all.
But that's the rule. So you want those on Justin Fields? Hold Tom Brady
to the standard of the rest of the league or find a middle ground where it's defined.
Well, so the two calls that we're talking about are Chris Jones, which was defined as throwing his weight and putting unwarranted weight on the quarterback. And Tom Brady's call was defined as slinging a quarterback unwarranted to the ground. So they are justifying it based on within the rules. You can agree or disagree, but do you want that to be continued to be called on Justin Fields and the rest of the league? Or is the rule the problem?
Yeah, the rule is the problem.
Okay,
but there's a second problem of how you enforce the rules, right? Because you can, I'm not sure the rule is necessary. You can say, okay, well, landing on the quarterback. I don't think landing on the quarterback with unwarranted weight should be a flag. But I also don't think the one against Patrick Mahomes was unwarranted. It was just a nice form tackle by Chris Jones sacking or against Derek Carr, rather, sacking Derek Carr. But both are an issue. The rule is a problem. You need a consistent, defined rule that is not too ticky-tack. But then you also need to have some accountability and say you can't create a ticky. It's like in NBA. I think Sin City Titan makes a good point here. We all know what a shooting foul is. We all know that when a guy goes up for a layup, if you smack his arm and there's a ton of contact, that is a foul. But how they define that contact changes whether it's LeBron James or, Joe Schmo going up for the layup. And I think that's an issue because your rule can be as consistent as it is. The rules don't matter if you allow for a big variance between who the player is. The player does not matter to me.
So overall, your solution is
not call soft stuff on Tom Brady and Derek Carr and the star quarterbacks of the NFL. Hold them to the same standard Justin Fields has. A late hit on a quarterback, that's roughing the passer. Hitting him in the, grabbing his face mask, knocking him down after the play, that's roughing the passer. Hitting a dude when he goes out of bounds or leading with your head, that's roughing the passer. But you have to be able to tackle guys. That is the fundamental sport, foundation of football as a sport, is tackle the guy with the ball. And if you can't do that, it's what's going to happen the next time that happens. And, you're trying not to rough the quarterback. Now you don't tackle the quarterback at all, and he escapes and makes a big play.
Yeah, I also think that the impact of the actual penalty being 15 yards and a first down is huge. Also key, right? So it's the flag also, right? It's 15 yards. It's the max that you can have.
Yeah.
It's the max penalty. It's not 5 yards. It's not like a defensive holding, 5 yards and a first down. Impactful, but it's not 15 yards.
No, It's like
So
it's like
maybe,
a pass interference being a spot foul with how
so here would be
subjective
my
it can be.
solution. And they're not going to do this, so I want to disclose this because they already got rid of the face mask, right? They used to say 5, it's like roughing and running into the kicker. There's a discrepancy of 15 and 5 yards. They used to do that in face mask. You pull it and twist it, it's 15. You grab it and then let go, it's 5. I think that both their first downs, but Brady and Chris Jones are 5-yard penalties in first downs.
Brady shouldn't have been a penalty.
But you know how they went back and they said, this is why we are doing it, because it is in the rule books as said. So they defended their refs. It's Tua Tagovailoa. Sam, if Tua doesn't go through his stint this early this season, I don't think either of those flags are called.
Yep. So here's Reynald with the point that we were kind of going to talk about. We've kind of gone in length on this without talking about our ultimate question here. Just make it reviewable. I know you don't think so. I do think it should be reviewable. We don't have to go through and ask the formal question, but I think roughing the passer and penalties that are subjective penalties. There are objective penalties, right? Too many men on the field, a false start, different things, right? I think subjective penalties in the NFL should be reviewable. And I know that that's not good for pace of play, but you need to get those right, and they're impacting games too often. I know they dealt with the whole saga with pass interference being reviewable and not being reviewable. I still think it helps the game if you have
But then they changed it, right? They told you what the subjective review does. They don't want it. The history of the NFL has told you that they conformed. And let me clarify, because a couple of people called me out in the chat. I read the chat. I see the chat. And I will admit, when I said that the NFL is proactive, I think my thought process was they're proactively changing the rules. But by definition, the chat was correct and I was incorrect. They are a reactive league, not proactive. They are reactive. So they were reactive when the Rams went to the Super Bowl instead of the Saints because of that pass interference call, right? But then they reacted and told us what they truly believed, and that was, we don't want subjective rulings to be under review. So they changed it.
Yeah.
After a year, too. It was quick change.
Trent says that would slow down the game so much. Rooney says penalties can change the outcome of the game. That's where it comes down to for me, is I know it would slow down the game. It would be tough. But just tell the New Orleans Saints that. I mean, that's all I can really tell you, because they were cost a trip to the Super Bowl by some of these subjective penalties being missed or not missed.
But Sam,
those should be reviewable when they're that obvious, because
Sam, it's like driving a car off a lot. You could get in a wreck. Mistakes are going to happen. Accidents are going to happen. It's human. We are human. We will make mistakes, right? It's terrible when you drive a new car off the lot and you immediately get totaled, right? But if you drive a car for 5 years and you get into a fender bender, that's just an accident. And so what we saw was the terrible total when all eyes were on the NFC Championship game that year. And that was just an unfortunate circumstance. I don't think that always is going to happen. And so you don't have to be always reactive. And I think they showed us that by pulling back.
Yeah, I don't think it should just be reviewable like a scoring play. But Jason says the team still only has 2 challenges. A blown call is like you throw a ball 50 yards downfield, the guy catches it in bounds, gets his feet in, they say he's incomplete. That's a blown call, right? But we're allowed to challenge that because it has a big impact on the game. It's a missed call in play. I would like to see a balance where teams still have their same number of challenges, but now that big call that's a penalty that changes the game for you is still able to be reviewed. We don't have to do it for everything, but if there's something that's egregious that impacts the game in a large way, I want to get that right. And if coaches are smart enough to hold on to their challenge flags
inside 2 minutes,
but inside 2, that's it. I mean, some of these penalties happen.
Challenge flags go out the window inside 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Everything is reviewed upstairs. The NFL likes that control, right? They don't want to put that in the hands of a coach, right? So your purple challenge flag that is on one call per game goes away within 2 minutes. That's where I think, again, you're trying to solve a problem, so I value that, but it's flawed because of what the rules are now.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
and those are the most impactful
based on
calls.
No, I mean, it's just, but though it's based on the logic of what you said, which I do understand to a huge degree of like, okay, well, like accidents are going to happen because there is a human element to all of it, and mistakes are going to be made. But when you throw the 50-yard pass down the field and the guy catches it and they say he didn't catch it, why are they not saying, well, mistakes are going to be made? Oh, well, that's the breaks. Because it's big and because you want to get it right, and penalties can have just as big of an impact. So I want to give them an opportunity to be reviewed and taken a closer look at so that everybody can just be on the same page. And if we can all look at a replay, we can all be on the same page. I think that would solve a lot of issues.
All right, to wrap this conversation up, I think that it needs to go from 5 to 15. I think the calls, I don't think you're going to change the calls because football's protecting football. You think that there should be a possible review of the calls. What do you think will happen?
I don't think anything will change.
I agree. And so I think we go through this. I would be surprised if something actually changed. The one thing is, Sam, I think they'll look at it. Like the NFL is good about looking at things. They don't always change it, but I think they'll look at it because it's impact. And if it impacts, if the same thing happens in a playoff game,
different story.
Higher vision in that. And Valentino's, I think, like a lot of fans, he wants to see the refs punished. He's going Game of Thrones on us.
Suspend them, fire them, miss a call, your job, you lose your job.
All right, let's get to Ain't That Good News. I have very special good news that I think everybody's going to like because I've had this good news before. We're going to have it again. Sam, I'm interested to hear your good news. But first, I do want to tell everybody at home about a great sponsor. That is Wilson County Hyundai. That's wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Your perfect make and model is right around the corner. That is the Hyundai Palisade. It could be the Elantra. It could be the Sonata. It could be the Ioniq, which is battery powered. Go check out their inventory at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. They've got your perfect make and model. Family owned and operated. A quick trip down I-40 exit 236. That's wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
And BetMGM is the king of sports books. And now is the time to get on BetMGM because they're offering a risk-free bet up to $1,000 with the promo code ATOZ Sports on the BetMGM app. I use BetMGM basically every weekend. It brings a lot of fun to football Saturdays and football Sundays. Makes watching a game super, super entertaining. So if you're looking to get involved with a sports book, BetMGM is the king of sports books, and it's risk-free on your first bet. So that is a easy deal to get started with. No reason not to do it. Go to BetMGM and use that promo code ATOZ Sports.
Don't forget, visit betmgm.com for terms and conditions. 21 years or older, Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualifications and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued with non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire 7 days of assurance. For problems with gambling, call the support line, the Tennessee Red Line, at 1-800-889-9789. Ain't that good news? We are here live on a Friday. We're going to end our week on Ain't That Good News. I'm going to send you to the chat here, Sam, and I'm going to post Ain't That Good News. What is your good news for the weekend? That's what we're asking in the chat. Comment in the comment section. We want to leave on a good note into the weekend. We got big games in college football when it comes to Tennessee, Alabama. That's going to be one to watch at 2:30. The Titans are on a bye, but you also have, I think, one of the biggest NFL games to date of this season. That is Bills-Chiefs this weekend.
That'll be fun.
AFC powerhouses, and some say, the best playoff game in history last year in Kansas City with that shootout. You give Patrick Mahomes an inch, he's going to take a mile and win a football game. So I'll send you the chat. Ain't that good news? Type in your good news and we'll read them off.
Let's see. Casey Coach Nate going camping with the boys this weekend. Rooney is going home for a 4-day weekend. Zach, his good news is going to see Post Malone this Sunday in Nashville. Eric says he's getting a brand new hot tub installed this weekend. That is good news, Eric. I am jealous of your good news. I love hot tubs. Orlando, good news. It's going to be a war in Rocky Top tomorrow, gearing up to leave tonight. Uh-oh. Hashtag roll tide. That might not make the chat too happy here. Lucky Austin's not here. He would already picked a fight with him over that one here. Jake says, good news. Third Saturday in October is tomorrow. That is a fact. That is a statistical. Yeah, that is true.
That's a play on Tennessee and Alabama play every year, the third Saturday in October.
That went right over my head,
right? Yeah, you're above the Mason-Dixon line, right?
Yeah,
once you get
true.
below,
yeah, I don't know about all those Tennessee.
Well, you
Alabama
learned something
traditions.
today, Sam. Right?
Huh?
You learned something today.
Learn something new every day. Demetrius says, good news, payday and going to Bama UT watch party. Good news, my back is going to the print. My book is going to the printer today.
Oh, there you go.
What else we got here? A lot of people talking Tennessee, Alabama as their big good news. Good news. Johnny thinks Tennessee smashing Bama this weekend. My good news is that as we speak, I'm watching a live stream of the Crew 4 coming home. This is bye week for Titans, and next week is the Arkansas Razorbacks bye week from Aaron. Yeah, that's true, Orlando. I'm from Big Ten country. I don't know. Zach, do you want your good news first or my good news first?
Hit me with yours.
Yeah, so this is a pretty simple one. My good news is vibes are up. My vibes, it's fall. I'm rocking with fall weather. I love fall and spring weather. And I got back in the gym recently. I had a little bit of an arm injury that had just kind of had me having to be lazy. I couldn't move my arm or do anything with my arm for like 2 weeks. And I finally got back in the gym and got to a new gym, and the fall weather has got me listening to my folk music. Vibes are up right now. I'm just like, I'm loving nature and how I'm feeling. And yeah, just a lot of good vibes. That's my good news because I'm excited for a good vibe weekend. And that's kind of what I have in store.
PVOs, positive vibes only. You gotta love them. I feel that when you said that with I felt that vibe come across the screen.
I've got the window open and I just had some last night I had some folk music sitting in here just playing. I was just like, hey, how about these vibes? These vibes are unmatched. So that's good news for me because that's kind of that's right where I want to be. That's my happy place.
Right there. And look, David's right there with you. He's going fly fishing in the canyon. Going to be a great weekend. Now that fly fishing is really, really fun. I'm going to get to my good news here very shortly. And my good news is something that, Sam, you've never had before, but it is tasty.
Uh-oh.
It is tasty. But I do want to tell everybody about Hughes and Coleman, a great sponsor here on the show. Hughes and Coleman, if you've been injured in a car wreck, their team will fight for you just like the Titans do on Sunday. They are the official injury lawyer of the Tennessee Titans. They can handle your insurance company and make sure you get the most money possible. They've recovered billions of dollars for their clients in Tennessee and Kentucky and will fight for every dollar that you deserve. Like I said, the official injury lawyer of the Tennessee Titans. Call 1-800-800-4600 for Hughes and Coleman. All right, Sam, this is my good news.
Uh-oh.
After the show, I am driving south. Well, I'm going to go west and then south to Oxford, Mississippi, because I'm going to see Ole Miss, undefeated Ole Miss, alum right here.
Let them know.
Yep. Take on Auburn. And I am bringing the juice. I'm not talking about Lane Kiffin's dog. I'm talking about the juice. This is my signature homemade apple cinnamon vodka. Day 1 on the left, day 7 on the right. We're day 8 right here. I could see it from right across the way. I make this every time I go to Oxford for the Grove. And what you do is you get some apple cider and you mix a little bit of that brown liquid on the right side. And it is literally, woo!
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. So
That's going to be that'll be a weekend. That looks like a week. That picture you just showed me that. I'm like, hey, that looks like a weekend at Ole Miss
not all
right there.
I got plenty of buddies. What I like to do is I am generous. If you're in the Grove, if you're going to be in the Grove this week, come find me and I will pour you a homemade apple cinnamon vodka drink. And it is very, very good. So good news right there. I get to go back to my old stomping grounds. Hopefully the Rebels win. That would make things a lot better. But it's going to be a fun weekend. Really excited.
Yeah. See, that's the one thing being in Big Ten country that I missed out on. By the way, Orlando, I'll have you know, how about those number 24 Illinois Fighting Illini? We're in that top 25. We're sniffing around up there. I'm not going to – it's ugly football, but hey, whatever gets the job done. First time really in since I've been a football fan, or at least like that, Illinois has been in the top 25. So it's a fun week for me to just get to look at the little number next to their name right now, even if it is number 24.
You talk about positive vibes. You got Ole Miss top 10, you got Tennessee top 10, you got Illinois top 25.
Yeah, I'm normally this time.
Now Buck, he's an Indiana fan. He's got other problems, but
No, I mean, normally this time of year, I'm just sitting around kind of like waiting to get to college basketball. And I'm like, hey, just give me Illinois basketball like that. And I am like chomping at the bit for that, but it's nice to be able to be like, hey, I get to watch like a fun little Illinois ranked in the top 25 football game this weekend. So I guess that's good news in itself as well. I know nobody really cares. Actually, Noah with the ILL, to Noah out there. Let's go. I'm glad to have another one out there. So
there you go. Well, hey, great show. Great week of shows. Sam, you did a great job filling in as we had to maneuver some things this week of the Titans bye week. Sit back and enjoy some football. This, relaxing football. Titans aren't playing, but we got really good football on the horizon. We thank everybody for watching A to Z Sports. Be sure to tune in to all of our social media throughout the course of the weekend. We've got you locked, and subscribe. We got Vols halftime and post-game show with Charlie Burris and former Vol Jonathan Crompton. So if you're a Tennessee fan, you can get locked. Subscribe to our A to Z Sports YouTube channel. We will see you Monday morning. Adios.